Good evening, everyone. We have an amazing show for you guys tonight. I think it's a much needed conversation. It is something that Callie and I have never really touched on the show. So we're super excited to have this conversation with our guests. And I hope that you guys will help us share and tune in and engage with us, ask questions. I feel like I don't know if anyone in our community has actually had this conversation before, right? Like, for those of you just tuning in, tonight's show is going to be regarding mental health and the Hmong LGBTQIA plus community. And so, we'll dive into some of the questions with our guests, but please feel free to engage and help us share. I think this is an important conversation. I feel like every conversation we have is honestly really important, though, right? And I think this one is, no different. I think every topic that we discuss, it impacts our Hmong community, and I think it's a much deserved and much needed one. So this is the first that we've touched on this topic. Sorry if I seem a little weird. I literally ran back from a dentist appointment, and they had to, cut my upper gum open to kind of do some sort of surgery. So I'm still a little numb. So I feel like I'm looking at myself talking to you guys on the screen, and it just looks funky to me. So laugh with me. That's okay as well. Callie's sharing, and we'll get started in a second here. But if you're live, say hi. Let us know where you're watching us from and help us share. And it's super hot today. I was on my way to the dentist, and it was like 92 degrees outside. Callie, I don't know if it's super hot in Vancouver, but it's so hot. Oh, PGR, it was so painful. If I could like flip my upper lip and show you, I have like 5 stitches. And I was like rushing home. I had to like wash my mouth out because there was so much blood in there. But yes, it is painful, but I was a trooper. I don't think it was as painful as them just trying to numb it. So, but it's good.
I think all dentist visits.
I know. I
I
hate
just
going
need
to the
metal in my
dentist.
mouth. I think just like the knowing there's metal poking in your mouth.
Hmm. I think for me it's the sound, like the grind, like
Yes.
when they're using their tools. I think that's the most part for me. But
I agree. It always feels like they're just like, yo, tama in your mouth. And
I
you're always like,
know. Well,
what
they
is
are. They're like
happening?
breaking bone, right? Or
Yeah.
like going into it. So I don't know, like when he was using the drill, I was like, man, like, are you almost done? Like, how much are you cutting in? Um, but it's needed. So, oral health is important. I prioritize that for my family this year. So I got to take one for the children this year and get it done so they can see that they need to get it done too. So, okay. So, for those of you who are joining, thank you so much. Please help us share this live. Again, like I said a couple minutes ago, it is a very much needed conversation in our community. And I'll have Callie bring on our guests, introduce our topic, and introduce our guests, and then we can kind of go in and dive into some of those tough questions that we're going to be talking about with them. So,
Okay. Yeah, so we'll do an introduction with them after we bring them on. So I won't do any introductions now, but I know they're eagerly awaiting to join. So Jessica, Makayla,
hello.
and Anthony.
Hi, welcome.
Hi.
How are you
Thank
guys
you.
doing?
I'm doing great.
Good. How are you, Anthony?
I'm doing fantastic right now. I'm very nervous, but I'm really excited about this.
Don't be nervous. Makayla, how are you?
I'm pretty good.
Good, good. Well, thank you guys so much for making time to join Callie and I. We really appreciate you, being in this space with us. Sometimes it's not, I think Callie and I, sometimes we have this conversation too about like putting ourselves out there and like having these conversations, and right, we don't know what people are going to feel. So I think just really appreciating all of you being in this space with us to kind of have this conversation. So thank you for being here.
Of course. Thank you both for opening a platform to talk about this. I think it's really needed. So thank you both.
Yeah. All right, Kelly.
All right, so we do have Jessica from WUCMAA with us and Project Resiliency, and then our two guests, Anthony and Makayla. And so I'm gonna have y'all introduce yourself. So if you want to talk about just for Jessica, talking about the organizations that you're with, and then your name, of course, and then a little bit about yourself, and then your pronouns.
Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Jessica. I'm working with WUCMAA, which is Wisconsin United Coalition of Mutual Assistance Association. It's a really long name, but we are a statewide Hmong nonprofit here in Wisconsin. I work as a project assistant with Project Resiliency there. And a little more about myself, I am from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. So it's great to see my Wisconsin folks here with me today, Anthony and Makayla. And my pronouns are she, her, hers.
Anthony, you want to go next?
Yeah, I can go next. Hey everyone. My name is Anthony. My pronouns are he, they. And currently I am an upcoming junior at the UW-Madison College, majoring in communication arts with a certificate in either theater and drama or graphic designing. And I'll just throw a fun fact out there. I collaborated with 5 other teenagers on a COVID film that actually was nominated for a Green Bay Film Festival. So it's an honor being here today.
Hi, my name is Makayla Cha. I go by she, her, hers pronouns. I am going to be also a junior at UW Madison. I'm going to major in psychology with a minor in game design and Asian American studies. In high school, I graduated as a valedictorian. So not to brag or anything, but yeah, so it's one of the biggest achievements that I've had so far, and I just hope to gain more as I go. So yeah, I'm really excited to talk on this talk show. So thanks for inviting me on.
Awesome. We are so excited to have you all. So before we begin, I'm going to go through the code of conduct. And so we ask that everybody be respectful. Of course, we are committed to making our show today as safe, respectful, inclusive, enjoyable as possible. And so that we ask that everyone who is listening in right now with us virtually, we know we have a lot of folks from all across the states. And so if there's anything that you have questions on, definitely feel free to ping us to comment. But we ask that we respect each other's identities, names, and pronouns. Friendly, constructive comments are welcome, but personal insults and demanding or argumentative comments are not acceptable. We will ban you if necessary. And yes, we do have that right from on this side. Accept people's self-identified gender for all purposes. Avoid negative comments, assumptions, and stereotyping of people on the basis of their gender identity, gender expression, gender reassignment, and sexual orientation. And like I said, if we feel like someone is breaking these code of conduct, we will ban you and you won't be able to comment or engage with this group. And so with that, Jessica is going to start this conversation off.
Okay, diving right in. Okay, so I guess the first question that we would want to cover, for Anthony and Makayla. So in general, how did your families feel about, good mental health and what does that meant?
I guess I'll take a shot at this question. So in general, my family never really, I guess I don't have a concrete answer on how my family feel about good mental health because just in general, like as a general society kind of thing, I guess we never really elevate people to have good mental health, and we never promote good mental health. And um, it's always sort of like you only elevate people with I don't want to say people with bad mental health, but people who are facing like mental illness to a neutral standard, and not really the people that are are categorized in the neutral standard to a good mental health. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that my family never really saw good mental health, and good mental health is a very broad definition. And but what I can give an answer on is how my family feel about bad mental health. And my family, they were more spiritually and religiously fixated towards mental health. And like, for example, if you have bad mental health or show any signs of depression or suicidal thoughts, even, like, you know, it's not like they never really like sort of push you and provide resources and tell you that it's okay to go through these things and that it's normal. So that's definitely like, that's sort of the general consensus of what my family views bad mental health. So not really tackling the question at hand, but sort of taking a dive at it another way.
Yeah. So for me, I come from a Christian family, and so a lot of the answers to like bettering your mental health is just to pray to God, which, you know, that's great and all, but there's also like a technical aspect that comes with it. Obviously, like God put you in this world to put in the work to like better your mental health. So I think that's one of the biggest things that a lot of Christians kind of like fail to recognize. Well, specifically just Hmong Christians that as I know, as I've grown up in that kind of environment. And so my family's, every time like there's somebody that doesn't have good mental health, it is always just a case of like, oh, just get over it. And that's kind of like their only answer. I think that while that might have worked for some people, growing that mindset it takes time. I think it is kind of a healthy mindset to have to quote unquote get over it. I think it's a harsh way to say it, but there's definitely ways where you can get help in order to get over the things that you struggle with. And so between families, there wasn't a very much I wouldn't say they weren't supportive, but it's definitely hard, especially because we're all Asian and we're all Hmong. It's hard to be emotional and vulnerable towards each other. So I think there's that level of like confusion on how to tackle good mental health and how to help each other. And so I think that in my family, it was always a personal journey. Obviously, my family was always there for me, and they always told me that they were there for me. But I think it's something that I wanted to tackle by myself, just because I felt like I owed it to myself. But yeah.
I love like the contrast of the two. And I grew up with shamanism too, and I definitely agree that I think that aspect is so strong and powerful, like growing up as a Hmong person, and the idea of like, you know, Olingo king, you know, is so strong that there's sometimes not room to just be like, I just need to talk this out. You know, maybe it's not that I need to have a big, you know, like a blessing or ceremony or whatever, but it's just to talk it out and to be able to share my feelings. And I mean, you know, when I think about my own family and how, you know, like we had Nahuna Yao, you know, and so we already like, I feel like that was already a really hard thing that my family went through, even though they did it. They kind of just, you know, like, right, the women, Oshande and U, and, you know, my dad as well. So everybody just kind of learned to live that way. And we all just learned to like coexist together. But I know definitely there's a lot of things that when you kind of look back of just like, you know, we never really dealt with things, right? We just kind of like pushed it to the side, and everybody to coexist together peacefully. You just kind of suppress a lot of those things. And so I really enjoyed listening to both of y'all's perspectives.
And I want to add to that too, that I think in our Hmong culture and kind of just how we grew up, mental health isn't actually really a thing, right? Like our parents didn't really grow up, and our ancestors didn't really grow up like knowing what healthy, good mental health looks like. And I still think they don't till this day, right? Like our generation is really bringing it to light. And so I think going back to what you were saying, Anthony and Makayla, about growing up being super religious in regards to like shamanism and believing in spiritual healing, and then Makayla, you with Christianity and praying. I think that's all they know how to do. That they don't have additional resources that they can provide us. And so I think along with what you're saying, Makayla, it's almost like a self journey where you kind of have to discover and look for resources by yourself. Like, right? And so I think sometimes we get really, at least I know for me, like when I'm going through stuff where I get angry sometimes because your expectation of your parents are very different. But I always have to sit back and think that they only provided me with what they knew. And whether you're a Christian or you're, still traditional, they try to help you in the best way that they can. And sometimes it's not the right way for you, but you kind of have to just give them grace and say that's what they know how to do. And it's in addition to you going to therapy, or in addition to you going to different resources out there to really help you kind of stabilize and have good mental health. But I think like let you both from like our own experience, isn't that right? So
Yeah, I think it's just because like I'm so young and I'm still like on the mental health journey that like, the whole trying to get like support for my mental health, I'm still trying to figure it out. I've been to therapy and that's helped a lot. But also like trying to explain that to my family is it's kind of hard sometimes. But I think that with enough like courage and with enough like power of like explaining everything, I think that like we can get to a point of understanding.
Olivia, you want to ask the second question?
sure. All right. So speaking of your mental health journey, we just kind of touched on that briefly. Can you tell us about your mental health journey? And in that journey, did you ever have suicide ideation or suicidal thoughts?
I can take a shot at this question. So my mental health journey is, I'd say it's pretty unique in a way, in a sense where one, I'm Hmong, two, I'm a guy, and three, I'm a part of the LGBTQ community. So there were a lot of different factors going into like mental health. Like even till like this day, I don't know exactly what mental health is. I don't have a concrete definition of what I see mental health as. So I always felt like I was a very happy person and just like overall an optimistic person. So in a way, it's I lived life growing up sort of like a fake it till you make it kind of thing. Sort of like always having to pretend that you're happy all the time, or that you're positive, or that you're content with putting up with all these crap thrown at you, um, when really deep down inside, like you carry that baggage with you all the way until you're like an adult, and then like by the time you're an adult, you like people expect you to like have your shit together, um, and like, but then like at that point, like you haven't developed any like good coping mechanisms on how to improve your mental health. So um, I'm definitely trying to stray away from just that general path that that Hmong people have sort of um, normalized in a way where like our generation and like the newer generation sort of have to combat with. I like to call my generation sort of like the guinea pigs, sort of a mixture between keeping traditional aspects while also growing up in America, where we are more accustomed to like modern technologies and beliefs that are a lot like are very controversial and contradicting towards the Hmong beliefs, you know. Um, so yeah, I've definitely faced a lot of depression and anxiety. Anxiety a lot. I still face that a lot. Like there are sometimes like in my daily life where I would be really anxious for no particular reason. And like there's never really anyone there to ever just tell you like, hey, it's okay to feel this way. It's sort of like you have to like tell that to yourself, which on some days like yes, you are your own biggest supporter, but on some days it's very hard to like even get out of bed just to you know, and just to tell yourself that you like, you know, like it's good to go for like a walk or to drink a cup of water or to eat a good meal, you know. um so yeah, definitely my mental health journey, it's sort of a fake it till you make it thing. And with that kind of journey, no, I've never faced any suicidal thoughts, and I am very thankful that I've never gotten to that point, because that's such like a heavy topic that not a lot of people are comfortable with. Um, but no, I've never faced any of that, and um, I don't think for like any viewers out there, like if you're feeling that way, like I don't think like you're loved, and like you are my favorite form of love, you know. Um, and you know you are deserving of being here, and like there's a reason why you were born into this world, like this confusing world with so many people that, you know, are also just as confused as you. Like I'm one of those confused people. Um, so like definitely like mental health, it's definitely a unique respective journey, but it's also a journey that has a lot of similarity to other people's journeys, you know. Um, but no, like suicide is never the option. You know, and if you ever get to that point, like please seek help. Like a lot of people think that seeking help shows signs of weaknesses. Like that's the total opposite. Um, yeah, like just seek help when you need it. To me personally, that's what I defined as a strong person, is when you seek help when you need it most, you know. And that's also something that I'm working on, and you know we all can work on this together. So
Yeah, for me, I definitely did have like a suicidal thought here and there. It wasn't anything to the point where like I actually drove myself to plan out like my death or anything like that. I think letting it get to that point is like really dangerous. And so I made sure like I seeked help before it got to that. Um, I think that like with suicidal thoughts comes a new form of strength, and I think that if you're able to get over like that kind of like deep dark depression and whatnot, I think it just makes you a completely like new person. And so I think that's what I did for myself. I went to therapy, and I told my therapist like, hey, you know, like I'm starting to think some really dark things. Like, what do you think I should do about it? And her thing was that like she never wanted to tell me what to do with my life. She was just there to like help me figure it out. And so she would reflect that question back to me, and she would say like, "Well, what do you think that you should do? And like what in your life is causing you this much distress that you think that you should do differently?" And so I think it was really powerful working through therapy and like being able to process all of that by myself. I didn't really go to anybody else for support. I think I felt like scared to admit that like I was suicidal or that you know, my mental health wasn't great. Um, so being able to just go to therapy and do all of that by myself, I think it made me like a really solid person. I think now that I can say that like I agree with Anthony. Like, suicide is never the answer. There is so much support out there, like regardless of what you believe in, regardless of who you are. There's Twitter threads, there's Discord services, there's Facebook. I mean, like, the internet is a wide range area for you to go and find people that feel the exact same way that you do. And so I think suicide, it's definitely one of those topics where it really depends on what is going on in your life and how to tackle that. I can't really give you an answer on like how to stop these kind of thoughts because it does come down to the specifics. But if I was to give one piece of advice out there, I would say that you have to remind yourself that, and this might sound corny, but like you were put into the world for a reason. Everybody on this earth has like a purpose, and whether that purpose is for you to be like a happy janitor at a school, great, like do that. Or maybe like you're gonna become like, I don't know, the Hmong community's best volleyball player or whatever it might be. It doesn't have to be great to anybody else, but just as long as you're happy, like that's all that matters. And like life is a journey. Finding that happiness is what makes life great. And you're gonna go through your ups and downs, but even at your lowest, you got to be there for yourself. Nobody's going to know unless you communicate it to them. I think that's where I fell short, where I didn't communicate that to anybody. And so I think that in a way is pretty unhealthy, but I've worked on it. So definitely just reach out to the people that love you. There are tons of people that love you. And if you feel like there's nobody that cares about you, I care about you and Anthony cares about you. So obviously like we're here for you. And so, yeah, I think that's my thoughts on suicide. And I just hope that whoever's out there that has that kind of feeling just knows that they're loved and that they're worthy of so much more than they think.
Thank you both. Oh my gosh, that was so heavy on me. Um, yeah, talking about suicide, just kind of sharing something personal. Like I've gone through that too. So I understand like it's really hard to talk about this. Um, and like talking about suicide, you can have it at any age, like you're never too young to go through depression. Like I went through depression back in like middle school and I never told anybody about it because I didn't know what it was. And just recently, I started talking about it more. And going back to this religion, this religious and the beliefs that our family kind of brought us with, all they said was "only shaiko," and not really more so go seek help, like professionally. So, and I do agree, ways to cope with it. There's many different ways to cope with, with your thoughts, your depression. How I did it is I just kind of told myself that, there's a more out there for me to do. There's more out there. There's a purpose out there. There's a calling waiting for me, and I just keep surrounding myself with people I love and people who love me. So thank you both for sharing that.
And it is such like a journey, y'all. I feel like you don't ever get like there, like to this really good place. I feel like you go through life and we get so much traumas that happen, right? Whether it's like you feel like, oh, like I'm graduating and now I'm gonna buy a house and I'm gonna, and then bam, something happens like that you don't even see coming. And then I feel like that can drive a lot of like different, just like going through depression and stuff like that. I've definitely gone through a lot of that, like after my divorce. And I think for a while, I felt like I had to like react. Like every time I felt uncomfortable, I didn't know what to do. I feel like I have to do something about it. And then I think when I figured out, like, I can just sit in these feelings and they suck, right? Like the times where I just don't feel very good inside, it's just like it sucks for those days. And I think when I started seeing a therapist and recognizing that, like, there are good days and there are bad days and they come and they go, and on the bad days I just stay with that, knowing that tomorrow I'm going to feel different. And so I think that that's kind of how I got through that. But definitely agree, like therapy is so good and it's definitely an investment, just like we go to the gym and work on like how we look in the outside, I think it's definitely important to like work on the inside. And especially even sometimes you feel like just getting the tools and processing, having somebody to help you process or just like listen to you. Cause I feel like it's not like they're going to come at you and like have all these like toolkits, right? But they help you like break things down or just ask questions that help you to think through things. And so definitely recommend therapy for anybody who needs it.
Yeah, and I would just like to add that like therapy is like amazing. Like I've never gone to therapy, but like based off on the stories that I've heard from my friends, like they definitely like improved a lot with their mental health. And I would just like to say that like if you ever give therapy a try and like it doesn't work out, like that's totally fine. Therapy is not the end all be all, and like the world is not going to end because therapy does not work out for you. You know, like everyone is different. Everyone is complex in their own way. Like I have never gone to therapy, and my form of therapy is like songwriting, you know, and like putting my emotions on, like in the form of something else. That also helped me, and that's like my form of therapy. So, sort of like explore your options. There are so many different hobbies and different careers and different clubs and organizations and different communities that you can reach out to that are also forms of therapy. You know, like therapy is not just like another professionally licensed person in front of you. It comes in different forms, and it really takes initiative to find what that therapy is for you.
Yeah, I agree. I think that not just in the Hmong community, but like every community, like every race, I think people just in general think that therapy is like this shameful thing. Like if you need therapy, like then it makes you less of a person. But I don't think that's true at all. I think that the fact that like you're willing to try out something like that shows that you want to improve yourself. And I think that's it. Like it doesn't need to be any deeper than that. It doesn't need to be any like more shameful. I think therapy like really, if everybody in this world was given access to therapy, I think that like we could really thrive as a society, as a community. And so I definitely think that whether you need like if you want to try medication for like the kind of things that you're going through, like there's also that option. Obviously like it's really expensive nowadays, but it's always there as an option. And I think that just talking through your emotions with somebody who is a professional, I think it makes a world of a difference compared to like just a friend or a family member. I think that if you're just willing to try it, um, yeah, I think that's awesome, and it just makes you a stronger person overall.
Agree. I really liked what you said, Anthony, about like just the different kind of therapy out there. It's not always going to see somebody. Sometimes writing, sometimes reading, spending time by yourself, being in nature. So it looks a lot different for a lot of different people. I'm going to put this quick comment from Sophia. She says, please keep in mind there can be a chemical imbalance, and so seeking a healthcare provider is essential to getting better. And that's absolutely true. Like I've considered medication. I've never been medicated, but I've thought about it. And I know definitely the stigma of even getting medicated was something that like just came up, right? Of like, oh, like I can push through this, but I think there definitely comes a time where you may need medication, and like work with your provider on finding something that works for you. And this a thing about providers is too, it's like finding any doctor, right? Sometimes like you just click with certain therapists, and like it's almost like you have to date around, and like get to know different therapists. And some people you really click with and you really like, and some you're just like, not for me. And it's like I don't ever feel like they get hurt about you choosing someone else. I've always felt like they've always been like, like if I don't work with you, like there's other people out there. And so I think that that's really nice.
Yeah, I find it so funny, Kali, how you said looking for the perfect therapist is kind of like dating around. So I kind of just so I started going to therapy just this year, so recently, and they don't get offended if if they're not the one that you're looking for. So I went through BetterHelp. It is a little bit more pricier, but sometimes you don't even need to tell them that, you're looking for someone else. You can just unmatch with them and go find someone else who you feel would better help you. So therapy, it's a must. It has changed the way how I view things, and I'm better at expressing myself now, with the people around me, my parents, my siblings, and the people that I love. So definitely seek help for sure.
All right, I'm going to move this conversation over to our next kind of area of discussion, talking about sexual identity. And so, how were your friends and family's response when you first discover your sexual identity? What are effective ways that friends and families can show up for their loved ones as they discover their sexual identities?
I guess I can go first. So I don't think I ever really had like a coming out story. I think it was more of just like as I got older, I realized it doesn't matter and it shouldn't matter to other people what I identify myself as. Like that's none of their business. And at the end of the day, like who like why does that like I feel like if I was to say it out loud to like my Christian family, it would be like a huge thing. And I don't want it to be a huge thing. I want it to be normalized. I think a lot of like times in society, like we want all these coming out stories to be huge and like blown up. I mean, you see a lot of like the LGBTQ representation in media. It's always about like them coming out and like them finding who they are as a person. And I think that's great, but I think my story is different where I personally don't have like this need to come out, and I don't have this need to tell people that like I identify this way. Of course, if somebody asks, like I'm willing to talk about it. Of course, like I'm super comfortable in my own sexuality, but um I think that with family it's different, especially because we are Hmong and we are Christian. I think that if I was to just bring it up in conversation, it would be a little bit strange, and it would be like a serious conversation that I would have to sit down with my elders and like talk about it. Which it's not that I'm running away from it. I just think that they are from a generation of people that are set in their ways, and so it would be kind of hard to explain like oh yeah, I'm pansexual, and this is what it means. And so uh I do feel that like I wish the LGBTQ community would normalize not having to come out. I don't think you have to justify like your sexuality to anybody. I think that it can just be a normal thing. You like what you like, and that's the end of the conversation. But obviously, like I have so much respect for the people that have the power to come out to their families and to tell them that like that's who they are and they want to be accepted that way. Like I have so much respect for that kind of stuff. It takes a lot of strength and courage to work your way towards that, instead of just where me, I just kind of brought it up in like casual conversation to my parents, and they were just like, "Oh, okay." I think that was like my parents' response. They did ask me like, "Oh, like why do you need a label for your sexuality?" Which is it's a solid question, but I think it's kind of one that um, made me realize that I guess everything in life has a label. Like you label yourself in your career, you label yourself as like certain statuses, and so everything has a label. And so sexuality, of course, like it doesn't make it any less of a thing that should have a label. um and so I think to answer like my parents questions of like why do you need to label yourself and your sexuality in this way, I think it makes it easier for me to find community, and I think it makes it easier for me to relate to other people, instead of just saying in general like oh yes I like guys but I also like girls but it also doesn't matter. Like that's confusing, but having like a term to define myself allows me to feel more complete and feel more put together, instead of just like wondering what I truly am. I think that for a lot of people it is like that. And so sexuality is a really taboo thing to talk about in my family. I don't think there's anybody in my family who like came out and stuff. So I guess I'm still a little scared, but that's what I'm here for, is to talk about how, like, at the end of the day, you are your own person. So you can't be afraid of like the elders, and you can't be even afraid of like new people who still don't see the ideas of LGBTQ plus. I think that you should be your own person and just rock it the way you want to, because I guess like nobody's opinion of you matters except yourself.
Yeah, so my journey to discovering my sexual identity, it's quite a journey, I'd say. A very arduous but very eye-opening and enlightening journey. So I knew I was gay since I was 4, and to all like the parents that are like watching the panel, or like individuals who want to be parents in the future, like kids realize like at the age of 4, that's when they develop preferences, and that's when they sort of identify what they like and what they don't like. And that's exactly what I did with my sexuality. I'm like, I sort of realized that, like, oh yeah, she's pretty, but I don't like her. um and I knew that since I was 4. Like, 4 is such a young age, and there's like, no, like, this discovering that you're LGBTQ at a young age is not a myth. Like, I am living proof that is a real thing, and that it happens, and that at such a young age, like, being I mean, well, at the time when I was 4 and like realized that, I was hyper aware of it, but I didn't know that it was something that was seen as not normal. Um, so growing up, like, I've always liked, like, my sisters would always put on makeup, and I would always like come near them and like watch them and like sort of like observe how they put on makeup. Or like, I would go to my cousin's house, who at the time was like an only child, and she had like baby dolls all over the place, and I would like I would rather hang out with her than with my siblings, because she had the Barbie dolls that I wanted at such a young age. Um, so what I'm trying to say is that I discovered my sexual identity at a very young age, but it wasn't until, I believe, I'd like to say ninth grade, when I sort of like admitted to myself that, yes, like, this is who I am, and this is what I like, this is what I prefer in a potential significant other. Um, so there are different like milestones and different pinpoints in the journeys that you have with finding your sexual identity, and this is just my sexual identity journey. Um, so yeah, I found out when I was in ninth grade, and but like, I admitted that to myself, but I never really came clean to my family and friends. And just saying that line, like, coming clean with your sexual identity, like, it's really hurtful to sort of say that to yourself, because you're not really, like, you weren't something that was like dirty or nasty, or um like, out of the norm from the very start. um but it definitely does put a toll on your mental health, and put a lot of doubt in your mind on if this is like the right, if like sort of telling people is the right choice. And for me, I in high school, I told myself that I wanted to like let my family know that this was who I am before going off to college. And um but it wasn't until the summer after I graduated high school when I sort of realized that, like, coming out, in my personal opinion, coming out, it's such a controversial thing, in my opinion. And like, again, like, I agree with Michaela, how like people who do like come out in the traditional way, like sitting their parents down, their family down, and like sort of talking them through who they are and what they like. Like yes, like I applaud every single one of you, but personally for me, like coming out in my sexual identity journey, it was never like I never saw that as an option. Like like I knew who I was from the start, like, and I did not, and like coming out, it sort of feels like you have to justify yourself in a way, and that's definitely not the case at all. Like this is who you are from when you were young, and that's who you are now. Like coming out, I don't know, it's just a very controversial thing that I would love to get more into, but um, just personally, I don't feel like that fits in with my story, and but again, like I'm hoping that the Hmong community is working towards a world where where coming out doesn't have to be a thing, where being gay, being lesbian, being bisexual, being pansexual, being gender fluid, being asexual, etc. Like that's all like normalized, and that's all like that's a common occurrence in the society. um so yeah, and there are many ways to show your loved ones that you care about them by being like by having open ears. Like my sisters always have open ears for me, and they always like listen to my crap, and like the things that I go through, and like the guys that I fall in love with. So it's just like just always being there for people when they need it most. And that also ties back with mental health. Like you never know when people need an open ear, like you never know what people have to tell, and it's such a privilege for me, especially, to have this experience, um and being able to communicate and being able to comprehend things, because like there are many people with disabilities that go through these things but can't communicate that, and like I am privileged enough to be to have a voice and to voice out what I need and what I want and tell my story to people that that are oftentimes inspired by it. So um yeah, just being there, and like, hey, like go to your Pride Fest or your Pride events. Like I just went to Pride Fest the other day, and like I had the time of my life. So um it's the month of June, so like w- I'm just gonna put this out there. One thing about the LGBT community is that we're always gonna show up. Like that's how it is. Like we always show up, and that's on period. So like yes, like for example, like Pride Fest, like yes, it's over already, but like there's so many more Pride events happening all around Wisconsin, all around the world. Like reach out to one, like go to one, like and see what the community is all about. And support like small local businesses, and start a community at your local high school or your college. Like you have the ability to contribute, and to formulate and to develop and to grow something that can be a helpful resource to those that are like needy of that resource. So um just showing up for people, that's really a good way to show that you care and support the LGBTQ community.
So I'm a parent, and so for all like the parents who are listening, I guess I would like what is like most, I guess, helpful as a parent to um like show your kids that you are there for them. Does that kind of make sense what I'm asking?
I think I'm not a parent, obviously, but I think if I were to be a parent, one thing that I would never ever do is to assume. That's something that we do jokingly to people, and we don't find the harm of it, but it obviously creates harm. Like for example, like if like a little boy comes up to me, and like acts in a certain way that a lot of people associate being gay or bisexual is, like, I'm not gonna assume that this person is like, this little boy is gay or bisexual, or like even if like this little boy like, or like this girl like likes this little boy, like never like assume and make jokes like, oh, kanya tu nangol ka, or something, like something like that, just like have an open mind and um let them know that it's okay to explore, like this world is so, like, we are so minuscule to this massive world full of opportunities, full of possibilities. And I think one thing that is so amazing about humans that we relearn things, but that can also be like a very detrimental thing for our mental health, like, so like, especially when your kids are looking up to you as their inspirational figure, like give them knowledge, give them love, fill their hearts with knowledge and love, and don't, feed them hatred in a sense where, well, I wouldn't even say hatred, but like indifference. I I think indifference is the opposite of love, and not so much of like I don't really think hatred is the opposite of love. It's sort of indifference, like, and like indifference means that like you just like you're just there, you don't really care, like you're unbothered by it, and like that's the opposite of love, because like you have to be there for them, you have to show that you care, and if you're indifferent to what they go through, like that's your, like, yes, you're not actively showing hatred towards them, but you're actively showing that you're also actively not like la, la, la. You're also actively telling them that you don't care, um so yeah, like, show them love. Fill their minds with knowledge.
Yeah, I think I agree. Where I don't know. It's like when your child is telling you, like if they're coming out or if they're just casually telling you, like, oh yeah, I like this like for me, like, oh, I like this girl at school. Like I think she's pretty cool and I like her like that. Like I think, like, yes, show love, but don't make it a huge deal, because then I feel like your child's, it's not going to feel like a safe place to talk about. Obviously, like if you're curious, ask questions, ask as many questions as you can, but do it respectfully, where it's not like accusatory, like, oh, why do you like girls all of a sudden? Like I think that that is just like a great way to divide your relationship with your child if you're looking to do that, but obviously nobody's looking to do that. I think that you just need to be gentle with your words, and try and say it with a smile on your face. Even if you don't agree, like asking those questions out of curiosity and not out of judgment is like a huge thing. It's something that I don't really see a lot in our community. I think that there's a lot of questions that are asked judge like with judgment. And so just going in with an open mind, just realizing that like this is a new world. There's different things, and these rules that you believed in are bend and change. So like taking accountability for the things that you say to your child is really important. But yeah, just shower your kid with love. At the end of the day, their sexuality doesn't change them, and it certainly doesn't change you as a parent. You're still their mom or their dad or their caretaker, whatever it might be. And at the end of the day, like you just gotta love your child for who they are. Um, and there are so many resources even for parents to like start understanding LGBTQ stuff. It's not just like exclusively for gay people or bisexual people. Like if you're a parent wondering about like what it all means, like you can always ask your child and like see if you can, attend like Pride Fest with them, see what it's all about. But allowing yourself to experience the things that your child is passionate in, I think that makes it all the better. And coming from a place of like understanding is really powerful. Yeah, I think that's it.
You both made really great points. Obviously, I'm not a mother, but let's say like if I were to be one in the future, I would not want my kid to like have to sit down and talk to me unless they want to, but then like I don't want them to feel forced to come out, right? Like it's just kind of like how I bring my boyfriend over and I introduce my family as, oh guys, this is my boyfriend. I want my son to do the same thing or my daughter to do the same thing. Like, oh mom, this is my girlfriend or my boyfriend. And obviously, just be really gentle with your words, because words do hurt and they do stick around, in the back of the mind. So be very gentle with your words, show them that you support them, and kind of going off of what Makayla said, just gotta be very supportive, go to Pride Fest with them, be very involved, but then at the same time, don't treat them any different from your other kids. Like treat them the same, So I guess that would be my piece of advice.
Thank you all for your advice. I'm a mom too, and so I think just you just never know. And I think just kind of along with one of Sophia Moore's comment of, as a parent, we just need to be more open-minded and embrace. And I completely 100% agree with that. And, I know of parents who at first were like not as open-minded, right? But I think kind of like what you said is it doesn't change who you are as a parent. You're still their parent. You're going to have to continue to be their parent, right? It's your child. And I think after a while, they sort of start to embrace it. And even though they don't agree with it, they start to embrace it. And, it actually makes your relationship better when your child feels like they can truly be themselves around you, so thank you for your advice. I think we never know what how our children are going to be. I think we just have to really let them be and kind of spread their wings and embrace them as who they are. So I appreciate your guys' advice on just how do you hold yourselves accountable to making sure your child feels safe.
Yeah, I think as parents, I think we have to remember, I'm a parent, and so this is something I have to remember, is I don't know everything, and that I grew up in a different time. My kids are going to grow up in a different time, and they're going to know stuff that I don't, just because I'm older. I think Makayla earlier, you said, one day when you learn the tools, and it's like, I'm 37. There's a lot of tools out, there's a lot of things I'm still learning. There's a lot of things with my own mental health that I feel like sometimes I'm like, I got this, and then I don't. And, as a parent, I feel the same way. It's just like I'm going through that experience of my kids doing a lot of things for the first time. And of course, I think with my parents, sometimes they'll be like, oh, now but it's like, well, I would have never known, like you can say all you want, but until I experience it, I don't know. And I think just as parents go, continue to recognize that we need to learn and grow and understand and take the time to listen, because it is, listening at a very young age too, like with our kids, because I feel like you don't wait until they're 16 to like have a relationship with them. I feel like you start when they're 0 years old, and like working on your communication and creating that safe space, so that one day, whether it's their sexuality or sex or other things that are happening, that you're the first person that they think of, right? Not that like they're like, I want to hide this from my parents because I don't want them to be mad at me. Like I want my kids to do that. And I think that that's something that I'm continuously working on. And, I hope that all parents, just, even if we don't know what to do with things our kids tell us, just to listen, like you all said. We don't have to have the answers. We don't have to, know what to say next. Sometimes it's just listening and being there.
I agree.
Okay, should we go to the next question now? All right. Now the next question is, Anthony and Makayla, do you feel that you found community and support within the Hmong community? And what do you wish to see more from the Hmong community?
So short answer, no, I didn't find any community in the Hmong community, and I'm just gonna be blunt out there. Like, no, like the Hmong community in general is it's a very traditional and gender-based community. A lot of gender norms and a lot of hyper masculinity and femininity that that have sort of like expectations that you're like it's sort of like there's like like a hawk looking over you at all times, and like if you like mess up or if you're like any different from the rest of the crowd, then like it's gonna come at you like just like that, um so no, I I haven't really found any community in the Hmong community, but because I didn't find any community in the Hmong community, I made that community. I went to an all Hmong school in here in Milwaukee, and I created a GSA, the Gender Sexuality Alliance. And if there are any teachers watching this panel, I just want you to know that the GSA club, it's actually by law a requirement for public schools to have the GSA club um, to sort of create a safe space for LGBTQ students. So, and like my school didn't have that, and I didn't know, and I was not aware of that being a law. So my English teacher came up to me and was like, "Hey, I think you would be the perfect candidate to start this campaign and to start this club and organization." So that's exactly what I did. So even if I didn't find a community in the Hmong community, like I made that community for a smaller circle, and it's all about taking steps to get there and to create this community. Um, and like, and we don't necessarily have to tear down our community to rebuild a new one. We can, like, we've already set the foundation. We can build on top of it, and like one way to do that is just to be more understanding of people and to be vulnerable with people when, like, for example, like there are a lot of people who a lot of old Hmong people that would like I'm pretty sure would call me a katoy, or like a translation is essentially a slur calling me a faggot, um it's sort of just to be like understanding and to be learning, like just because you're older than someone does not mean you know more than them, or that yeah, or like it doesn't mean that you know more than them. Like there are some things that little kids like sort of realize and understand that you might not, and their perspective is a lot more valuable and valid than yours, and it's just all about understanding and being there for people and finding community to sort of build a safe space for your kid.
Yeah, for me, I feel like um I I was so comfortable in my sexuality that I never really had to find support for it. I just always felt like to me it wasn't that big of a deal, and so it shouldn't really be that big of a deal to other people. But I went to the same school as Anthony, that all Hmong school, and I did kind of feel though that I connected a lot better with people who identified as a part of the LGBTQ community compared to people that didn't. I think that with a solid level of understanding between two people makes like a solid friendship. And so I guess I can't really speak too much on this question because I never really looked for that in my community. But I guess that's also because I knew like the Hmong community, we don't really talk about that kind of thing. And that's not really a thing yet, which I wish was more talked about. And I guess that's what we're here to do today. But yeah, I guess I just kind of went through my journey by myself. I didn't really look for a community. For the in Hmong specifically, just because I felt like I didn't need it, but obviously there are a lot of people that do. I unfortunately don't really have any like resources that like any Hmong resources because we don't really talk about it, and so I'm not really sure where to go along with that. But uh, I do kind of feel like there are a lot of um, people out there that would like that sort of thing.
Yeah, and I would just like to add, like, if there are any like college folks that are watching this, um, a lot of college has like they have a lot of LGBTQ clubs, like at Madison where I go to school, like there are multiple LGBTQ organizations and clubs that are more than welcoming to, and take you in as one of their own, Um, so it's all about reaching out to different resources and different clubs and different organizations, um, and like taking that initiative. Like it's so scary to take us to spread your little wings and fly to the little nest. Um, but it pays off. I definitely will tell you that, like, it pays off. Like, if you take a risk, like, it pays off. Um, one I read this quote the other day where it's like something about like shooting for the stars, like, but even if you miss, like, you'll land on the mountains. Like, even if you miss or fail to do what you've intended on doing, like, just because you took that initiative and that risk, like, it's gonna bring you to like heights that you've like never known that you could like reach before, and like that's definitely has happened to me. So yeah, it's all about taking the initiative and taking the risk and taking a step out of your comfort zone to find that community.
And just to kind of think about the legacy that you left, Anthony, to like creating GSA and like the folks that will be helped from that. I think like whether you're able to stand alone, like Makayla, and be comfortable, or whether you need to find community. I think that it's nice to have another person that you don't have to explain anything to, right? Because you have that similarity. It's just like I don't have to justify who I am; they just already know. Um, uh, Olivia and I had talked about us, like even us both being Hmong, there's just certain things that we don't have to explain to, like our Mika friends, right? There's just that understanding. I certainly don't know about, the LGBTQIA plus community, but I know like as a person who has gone through certain things, just as like, when I find somebody that shares that same experience, again, there's just a lot of things that you just know. You don't have to explain or tell anyone about it. And so, but I think finding community, whether like you said, if you don't find it where you are, finding it elsewhere in the larger Pride community. There's a lot of different events and different groups that you can be a part of. Is there any other resources? I know we had like Malia ask, please share some resources with us out here who are still on our own journeys to learning. And I think she said to unlearning, because I know fear is definitely a barrier. And the more we listen genuinely and be unassuming, the better world we can live in. So if anyone in this group knows of any resources, whether that's for friends, for yourself, or even resources that Anthony and Makayla, your parents and friends may have also looked into, I think that is really important to be able to have a safe place as someone who's learning to be able to have.
Well, I would just like to say that, like, Malia, I believe that's your name. How to pronounce your name? I'm sorry if I pronounce that incorrectly. Just you being here today for the All That Talk panel, like, that makes my heart really happy, and that already shows a lot of effort in trying to learn and unlearn all these things that you were conditioned to believe in. So, just like reaching out to um like people who identify as LGBTQ plus communities, like those are your primary sources where that, like, they've gone through the like they've gone through the whole entire stigma of LGBTQ. They had their own sexual identity journey. You know, they have their own mental health journey. You know, like it's all about talking with them and sort of and sort of asking questions. Like I can't stress this enough. Like I love it when people ask me questions about the LGBTQ community, because that shows that they're trying to learn and trying to unlearn in that process too, you know. So don't be scared to, you know, like quote quote look stupid in front of someone, you know, like that's so false. Like you're not stupid at all. You're just another person learning from someone else, you know. Like we all learn from each other, we all listen, we all grow, you know.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. I think this talk here is like one of the biggest steps that you can take in like learning this kind of stuff. If I was a parent who wanted to learn more about like being having a kid that like identifies as LGBTQ plus, I would like I guess look it up on Google and just like search like how do you deal with it. And sometimes maybe this is just like a I don't know, a Gen Z thing, but sometimes I'll go on Reddit. Reddit is where like people share like their opinions about things and like some really helpful advice. And it's all anonymous, and so I think Reddit's a great place to start. Just searching like how to like raise an LGBTQ child, and then just put Reddit at the end of like that statement, and then you just search that in Google. Like there will be a couple of like Reddit resources that can help you. I think that's a good place of like getting started and wanting to see if there's any more resources out there, because I'm sure like there's tons of people on Reddit who have like different credible websites and stuff that you can go to. And so yeah, I guess that would be my only resource. It might be like a little bit strange at first because it is just a bunch of random people on the internet, like, but it's a bunch of people on the internet who are trying to educate people, and I think that that's a powerful thing. And so use that to your advantage.
Yeah, and one thing that I would also like to bring up, one of the things that people don't realize that like the power they have is the power to vote. You know, I don't want to get a little bit too much into politics in this panel, but like 18 plus, like we all have the power to vote for the president, for senates, you know, for like different candidates that support different things. So like it's all about staying actively connected with the politics that are never ending and are sort of, you know, sort of combating against each other. Like there's the Democrat, there's the Republican side, you know, but in a sense they sort of work well together to sort of like for example, like if you are like a Democrat, you know, like you sort of like you can look at the Republicans perspective and see how that contradicts with yours, you know. Like it's always good to have an opposing side, um and like it's always good to have an opposing side to sort of like learn from both perspectives. But yeah, I think learning about these candidates, these politics and what they support, and then going to your local voting polls and voting for those people, it's such a huge thing that you can do to contribute to creating a safer place for your children, or children who can't vote but like want this safe space, you know. Like I remember when I was 17 years old, and that was when the presidential election happened, and I was like yes, like I'm only one age away from being able to vote, but I am like I know so much about like this politics, you know. Like do it for like the 14, 15, 16, 17 year old like teenage people who know so much about these politics but can't vote only because they're younger than 18, you know. I was once there, so I know how stressful and how annoying that can be. So do it for them, do it for the people that you want to feel safe, you know. So yeah.
I think too, adding to that, Makayla and Anthony, I think Facebook, it's like social media in general have like so many different groups that you can just go be a part of, and you don't even really need to engage. I think a lot of other parents out there are probably going through the same thing that you're going through. If you just join one of those Facebook groups and you start reading some of the comments or questions and the comments underneath that, I think that there's lots of resources that those parents can provide you as well that they are willing to share. So I think there's a wealth of information out there. It's just like anything that you want to learn, you just got to go look for it, right? And if you can't find something similar to that, then kind of like what Anthony did, you just kind of create one for yourself, right? So I think if you build it, they will come. But I think there are a lot of actual resources out there. We just, unfortunately, I don't have anything. I didn't have time to look for anything to kind of pin it down for you guys, and I don't think Callie did either. But I think like Makayla said, Google is your friend. Facebook groups is your friend. Social media in general is your friend. So you just gotta put some time and effort into looking into that. All right. Any last comments, additional thoughts before we move on? Okay. So before we actually conclude, we want to have Jessica speak on the work that WUCMAA and Project Resiliency is doing around mental health. So Jessica, I'm going to pass over the torch back over to you to have you kind of dive into WUCMAA and Project Resiliency and mental health.
Okay, thank you. Well, first of all, I just wanted to say thank you to all that talk for, opening again your platform and working with WUCMAA and Project Resiliency to bringing more awareness, about mental health, and suicide prevention. And secondly, I would like to thank both of our guests today, Anthony and Makayla, for being so open on coming here tonight to talk about your stories. It has truly inspired me. So thank you both so much. So just talk a little bit more about what Project Resiliency has been working on. So far we've been working on a series called Breaking the Stigma, where we will be posting, 3 different PSAs, 2 live webinars, and 2 educational videos to normalize having discussions about mental health and suicide prevention, which I feel, excuse me, which I feel are really important topics. To talk about, especially in the Hmong community, since we always kind of overlook those topics. So I feel like it is time for us to shine a light on it and normalize talking about that. And we also have, different coordinators working with Project Resiliency in different counties of Wisconsin, which they create local workshops and programs to spread the awareness about mental health as well. And as well as, we do have a non-crisis peer support and free warm line that we launched this year. Yay! It is the first Hmong peer run warm line. So if you ever need help, need someone to talk to, just on like a regular day, or maybe you're feeling stressed and you need to let some steam off, feel free to call our phone. It is 1-800, I think 293-8070. So that is our warm line number. And I would say just to follow our Facebook page if you would like to stay updated on what we have going on and learn more about our organization. And I think Cully and Olivia, you guys have it posted on the link. Yeah, so yeah, that's a little more about what we've been doing so far. Thank you.
Yeah, and I've been loving like the little mental health tips that you guys have been putting up. I think they're such good reminders, and like little tips and tricks that you can kind of use in your life. Doesn't always, I think when we talk about self-care and maintaining yourself, it's not, it doesn't have to be super expensive. You can kind of look depending on your budget, and so I think y'all have some really good tips there. And so, Anthony and Makayla, how can people connect with you both?
Yeah. If anyone wants to connect with me, my Instagram is Anthony Xiong. 2 A's and 2 G's at the very end. So A, Anthony Xiong, and then another G. So yeah.
For me, I have 2 options. If you're more of a texter, you can find me on Instagram. It's MKYL_CH. And I'm kind of bad at texting, but I will get to you as soon as I can. And if you're more of like want to reach me on a professional area, you can email me. It's MakaylaLeaCha@gmail.com. It's a long thing to spell out, but it's all on the All That Talk Facebook page in those introductions. So yeah, it's all there.
Great. Well, thank you so much to Jessica for bringing this to us. Again, mental health is something that we're both really passionate about. And, we've had an episode on murder-suicide and then just suicide itself. But this is the first time that we've had folks from the LGBTQIA plus community. And so thank you so much for being brave. And when we were looking at the questions, I love that y'all were like, no, I didn't find it, like even though I think it just showed the diversity of like all of us, right? That like there's no box of what anybody looks like, that we're all uniquely ourselves, and that there's not, it's not like you walk by and that somebody's, like Somalian or like whether they're gay or whether they, have, or immigrants. Like there's just so much about people and so much uniqueness. And I really appreciate that the two of you have different perspectives of, not having a coming out story, having different experiences. And so thank you so much for sharing that. And of course, thank you to everybody in the audience for adhering to our code of conduct, for the respect that we're garnered tonight. I know that, we were able to create a safe space, even virtually, and I really appreciate that for all of us. Of course, here at All That Talk, we believe that conversations drive change, and we hope that you take some of these conversations and have them with your friends, with your community, amongst each other, to continue to normalize and talk about it. I think that that's the only way that we can make it a part of our normal life, is to feel safe enough to talk about it, to ask questions, to learn more. And so with that, we will see y'all next time. Have a good night.